War has always been hell, but the war in Ukraine has pushed the boundaries of hell even further. Imagine a place where every move is watched by a deadly flying predator, and one wrong step could be fatal. When using the bathroom feels heroic. It was never easy on the front lines before, but this is much harder. In Ukraine, a tactic emerged that transformed large areas into deadly zones called the drone wall. And everything you thought you knew about modern warfare is being rewritten from the ground up. Because today, tanks are no longer decisive. What matters is a swarm of small, cheap machines. And death comes from the sky, silently, unexpectedly, without warning. Stay with me. Today, I'll show you the tactic that made the front line infamous, now symbolized by the drone wall. Welcome to Beyond Borders, where we reveal hidden connections, power struggles, and conflicts shaping our world. And in today's video, we'll look at one of the craziest phenomena of the Russia-Ukraine war, the drone wall. First, I'll show you how the Russians recently used it near Konstantinivka. Then, how the Ukrainians used the same tactic near Pokrovsk to stop the Russian advance. I'll explain what a drone wall is, how it works, and its coverage area. I'll tell you what this new form of warfare means for ordinary soldiers who live in that hell. I'll also show you the most bizarre things this war has brought. We'll discuss how drones have changed warfare, how tanks are no longer as effective, and how the old ways of war are gone. A new era has already begun. The Russians in the drone wall near Konstantinivka, July 2025. The front near Konstantinivka is one of the bloodiest places on the entire line of contact. Here the Russians use a tactic called the drone wall, spanning 15 kilometers wide. Anything moving in this zone, cars, tanks, infantry, or someone leaning out of a trench, is instantly tracked and usually destroyed. Alexander, the commander of a Ukrainian unit, says that just a year ago, the Russians were able to hit targets at a distance of 2 or 3 kilometers. Today, they already have strike capabilities up to 15 kilometers from the front line. And strikes come every 10 to 20 minutes. Everything in this zone is devastated. The soldiers say that even such ordinary things as going to the toilet have become acts of heroism. They urinate in bottles and defecate in bags, since going above ground is nearly certain death. But Russian units, especially the elite Rubicon, send out hundreds of drones every day. Rubicon hits an average of 70 targets a day, and those are just the confirmed hits. This wall of drones turns any supply, run, movement, or unit rotation into Russian roulette. Ukrainians call every road here a road of death. The Ukrainians and the wall of drones near Pokrovsk, but it's not just the Russians who are using this hellish tool. Ukrainians are skilled at this too. No surprise, since Ukrainians themselves developed the drone wall tactic. They fully deployed it for the first time near Pokrovsk. It was necessary. Ukraine lacked enough artillery and heavy weapons then, giving the Russians the advantage. That's why Ukrainians sought a cheaper, more effective way to halt the enemy, leading to the creation of the drone wall, to replace the firepower Ukraine lacked. In spring and summer 2025, Russians nearly surrounded Pokrovsk, an important Ukrainian logistics hub in the Donetsk region. In 2 months, they advanced almost 20 kilometers. It looked like the city would fall. But the Ukrainians did something no one expected. They deployed a drone wall reaching 10-15 kilometers into the Russian front. The whole area became a continuous kill zone. Russian vehicles and units moved with enormous risk. The result? The front barely shifted in 3 months, and Ukrainians counterattacked, retaking Kotline. Russian forces had to retreat. Emil Castehelmi of the Blackbird Group says everything here was at risk, and logistics failed. Moving infantry became suicide. The Russians even started using horses, donkeys, or camels because mechanized equipment was destroyed immediately. Thanks to the drone wall and good coordination between artillery, infantry, and drones, the Ukrainians stopped the offensive and created a new model of active defense. Viktor Trehubov, spokesperson for Ukraine's Chortitsia group, said Pokrovsk is the front's most successful area and will shape war tactics for years. The video isn't over. Please subscribe, like, or send a super thanks. That's a small financial gift you can use to support my work. Thank you very much. Let's continue. What exactly is a drone wall? How does it work? So what is a drone wall really? Picture a strip of land, 10 to 15 kilometers wide or more, with hundreds of drones constantly circling overhead, from reconnaissance to kamikaze attack drones. This wall has three main functions. First, surveillance. The entire territory is monitored and operators see all movement on their screens. Even a soldier who sticks his head out of the trench for just a second. Second, strikes happen instantly when the drone identifies a target, using either its own explosives or by directing artillery fire. It often happens that targets are destroyed even before they can get close to the front. Third, psychological warfare. Soldiers know death is always watching, leaving them paralyzed by fear. This wall forms a death zone over enemy territory that can't be crossed without heavy losses. At the same time, it makes resupply, troop rotations, and especially large-scale offensive operations impossible. Russia and Ukraine are using it in more advanced ways. The Russians have deployed jam-resistant drones using optical fiber. The Ukrainians have established drone brigades operating on different front sections. What does the drone wall mean for an ordinary soldier? This all sounds technical, but behind the drone wall are people experiencing what military historians call a new generation of hell. During World War I, soldiers spent days or weeks at the front before being replaced. Today, Ukrainian soldiers are at 0 point often for entire months. Ukrainian journalist Yuri Butusov wrote about men who have already spent 210 days at their position. That's more than half a year, unable to wash, sleep, or leave. Rotations are extremely dangerous. All vehicles are drone targets. Soldiers often walk up to 10 kilometers carrying a backpack, ammo, and 30 liters of water. Soldiers pee into plastic bottles and poop into bags because there's a drone hovering over every road. A Ukrainian soldier called it a new level in an already disgusting war. In the wall of drones, nowhere is safe, trenches and rear alike. Everything is watched and targeted. This is 21st century warfare. Century. You know what's even more fascinating about drone warfare? The strange, unexpected details you don't see in other wars. For example, Russians and Ukrainians now use motorcycles, electric scooters, and bicycles on the front lines because they're smaller, faster than cars, and harder for drones to hit. Or those completely absurd things. Russians use horses, donkeys, or camels to move ammunition since vehicles are easy drone targets. Soldiers are turning toy or radio-controlled cars into bomb carriers to deceive the enemy. Then those deeply personal, even terrifying details. Soldiers urinate into plastic bottles and defecate into plastic bags, as we've already mentioned, because sticking your head out of the trench almost guarantees death. This shows the drone wall is about more than technology. It's a war that forces people into the most bizarre solutions just to survive. How have drones changed the war? The end of the tank era. If 100 years ago the symbol of war was trenches, and 30 years ago it was tanks, today the symbol of war is drones. Drones have rendered tanks obsolete. Tanks are large, loud, and easily detected. And first-person view drone carrying explosives can destroy million-dollar machines for only a few $100s. It's not just tanks, everything has changed. Artillery is now aimed using drone footage. Logistics are extremely dangerous. Soldier rotations are a total gamble. The psychological terror of drones is immense. Soldiers hear their buzzing, knowing it could mean death. War is now about data, artificial intelligence, and drones. The side with more surveillance wins. And the wall of drones is exactly this kind of symbol. It's an invisible wall that the enemy can't cross, and even the bravest soldiers are afraid of. Defending against the wall of drones, how is it done? You might ask yourself, if the wall of drones is so impenetrable, is there anything you can actually do against it? The answer is yes, you can, even though it's insanely difficult. Ukraine and Russia are already using many defensive strategies. The first line of a defense is electronic warfare. The Ukrainians are deploying systems like Bukovel AD and Piranha. They can jam first-person view drone signals from several kilometers away using systems like Pol 21 or Psylocke. They generate an electronic fog. The second method is physically destroying drones, known as hard kill defense. Rapid-fire cannons, machine guns, or even laser systems are used. Israel and Britain are testing lasers to shoot down drones. Another strategy is camouflage and deception. Armies are covering tanks and trenches with metal nets to block drones from seeing targets. They also use mock-ups of tanks and artillery so that drones only destroy decoys. A new weapon has been developed: drones versus drones. Both sides now deploy drones that catch or destroy enemy drones in the air. Sometimes two small first-person view machines even duel in the air over the front line. The latest trend is artificial intelligence. It can analyze the camera image and launch a counterattack on its own. But this technology still needs more development. Although the drone wall seems impenetrable, armies are learning to break through it. Right now, it's extremely expensive in an ongoing battle between technology and counter-technology. Conclusion: the drone wall and the future of world wars. What could be the most frightening aspect? What's happening in Ukraine today isn't just their war. NATO, the United States of America, China, they're all studying the drone wall now because they know this is the future of all wars. Americans have already started projects such as Replicator. They plan to deploy thousands of autonomous drones that can attack or defend on their own. Drone kill zones are being discussed to protect national and city borders. But there's an even darker side. What if one day the drone wall is not used by armies, but by terrorists, or someone uses it against their own population? War is becoming a battle of data, artificial intelligence, and drone swarms, with the drone wall as its symbol. If war has always been hell, this one has made hell a factory. The drone wall is its darkest creation. Someday that wall may fall in Ukraine or elsewhere. Thank you for being with us on the hranicami channel. Keep following us so you don't miss the stories and connections that move the world. Remember to subscribe, like, and support my work with super tanks if you'd like. Here's a small gift on YouTube. See you next time.